Hey, everybody, this is Brett. And, this time of the year, it can be very difficult for a lot of people. And I know this just from my own experience because, I've pretty much disregarded and disowned my family. And so I don't call them or, ever communicate with them at all. And this is the time of year here in America where we all are supposed to get together with family. And so, you know, it's really good to put yourself in the position of somebody that doesn't have any family or doesn't have this or doesn't have that, because that helps you to feel better. Because it's so totally true that there are so many people out there that don't have any family and don't have 2 cents to rub together. And there are people out there that are starving to death right now and don't even have any food. And, it's a horrible thing, this world sometimes, but it does help you to feel better that if you do have a roof over your head or food in your mouth, that you're doing a whole lot better than a lot of people out there. And so don't feel so bad if you don't have anyone to talk to, because remember, you've always got creation, God, whatever you'd like to call it, to talk to. You may have a pet to talk to. And I'm telling you, oftentimes a pet is a whole hell of a lot better to talk to than a person. It's totally true. And we all know this because people can be very cruel and difficult. And so a whole lot of people that decide to go and travel and stay with their families made a bad decision because it doesn't end up to be such a wonderful situation. And most of us, unless you're really lucky, unless you just really get along with your family well, most of us have experienced a lot of trouble. And in the least, we drove a long way and burned a lot of gas and wasted a lot of money. And it just was not a good thing at all. And we really had second thoughts about doing that again. And anyway, so it's not so bad to be alone. And you just have to kind of enjoy the time with yourself. Enjoy being with yourself and creation and reading and enjoying some of the things that you can do by yourself. Now, a couple of days ago, Thanksgiving, I called a friend of mine on Facebook, and she answered the phone, and she was sleeping in her van, her custom van that has a fridge and electricity and all of that. And she was at a campsite all alone, and she seemed to be doing quite well. She had decided not to get together with her siblings because she has had problems with them in the past. And so I spent some time talking with her, and it was cool. It was cool. And most people don't know, I think, that they can call people and see them and talk to them on FaceTime or Skype for free anywhere in the world. And I don't know that my internet has the capacity to run this live stream and do that at the same time, or I'd show you. I just go on Facebook. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. There's my homepage on Facebook. And if I go to somebody like Phoebe, okay, so here's the little message thing. If I click on her over here and I pull up the message thing, or if I go to her homepage here and I click on the little message thing, then all I have to do is click this little video camera right there. Can you see that? Start a video chat with Phoebe. All I have to do is click that, and then it'll come up and it'll ring her just like a telephone. And so I think that I kind of scare people because they know I'm a YouTuber and I'm not afraid of much. And, you know, sometimes people will talk to me and sometimes they're like embarrassed or something, or they're afraid to talk to me. But some of my Facebook friends will talk to me. And it's cool. You know, I talk to my friend Philip in Great Britain quite often. And lots of different people. I talk to Tudor in Romania. It's fun. And yeah, you could Facebook me or friend me on Facebook if you want. If in the description box on this video or any video, for the most part, you can friend me. Hello, watcher from Saudi Arabia. Oh, cool, cool. I know that there are good people in Saudi Arabia because I've talked to them on FaceTime before and I've had them order my products before. But man, I've got some kind of bad thoughts about Saudi Arabia in regards to the MLB, whatever his name is, Mohammed bin, whatever the hell his name is. That was horrible, you guys. I don't want to really bring that up, but I know that there are a lot of great people, and I'm sure that you're a good person if you like to watch me. But yeah, I have viewers from everywhere, and it's really cool. Probably even Iran and Iraq. But California. And I lived in California for a long time, and there are a few places still in California that I would consider living. Not a whole lot, in all honesty, because I've vowed to stay away from the cities. And whenever there's too many people, like there is usually in California, it kind of gives me this like yucky feeling. I grew up in San Diego largely and had a business there, and I lived in Holly freaking Wood in 1987. When I was very small, very little, I lived in Glendale in LA and Lancaster. My little brother was born out in the desert in Lancaster in 1970. Meatwad, the Meatwad Show. Now that's kind of the name of a person that I typically will end up blocking. Somebody named Meatwad or somebody named like a gamer, some kind of a gamer. You would not believe how many gamers are on my blocked list. They're like punks, you know, and they're always saying some punk thing. But the thing is that if you're blocked on my channel, you still can watch my videos. That's a YouTube rule, and I would probably change that. I would probably, if I could block people like altogether, I'd probably do that. But I'm not allowed to. But I do, you know, I have to stick with the rules, and so I stick with the rules. So everybody's telling me where they're from here. Sarasota, Florida. It was a name I made in school. I just haven't changed it. Well, you know, maybe you'll be the Meatwad until you're 80. Now, if you're older, if you're an old fogey like me, and you remember Archie Bunker from All in the Family back in the 70s, you know, his son-in-law that married his daughter, his name, he called him Meathead. So this is something that you can do on Sunday or on a holiday type of weekend night, you can talk to me live. There's 20 of you. Woo! Everybody should tell me where they're from. But now this is the one person. What was their names? 3ZN, 3ZN from Saudi Arabia. Now, anybody that likes and anyone that enjoys watching my videos has to be, for the most part, of a certain quality, I would like to think. Somebody that is somewhat progressive and appreciates logical thinking, not necessarily left, right, up or down, cold or hot, but somebody that just takes the facts for what they are, but has intuition at the same time, has a spiritual insight and an ability to have good intuition and connection to things that are unseen, if you know what I mean. Because there are all these so-called coincidences that constantly happen to me, and many of you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Things that happen that are unexplained. And we've come to believe and come to know that this is something beyond our comprehension and something that's part of our spirituality, something that's not really described in any of the more popular spiritual books like the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran. These are things that we've experienced on our own, with our own eyes and ears and minds and hearts. And so we kind of have our own little spirituality. And so the people that watch me on YouTube, they're often connected in that regard. And I'll tell you something ignorant that somebody said in a comment the other day. He immediately got blocked, and he was one of those gamer people. But he said, imagine having 130,000 subscribers, but getting less than 1,000 views on the newer videos, which is true. But specifically, why is that? And there are a lot of different reasons, but one of the main reasons is because I've offended people that don't want to hear the truth. The truth is too much. The truth about things is too much for a lot of people, and so they've tuned out and they don't want to watch me. Maybe they think I'm boring. I don't know. But it bothered me for quite a while that I was no longer getting very many views. Another reason is because there's so many people on YouTube nowadays. And a lot of people are just interested in, and I can understand this because sometimes I'm just interested in mindless entertainment. Mindless entertainment. Like if you're tired, you don't really want to think about anything too much. You just want to see something funny or interesting or cute, etc. Then you watch mindless entertainment. But oftentimes, I like to talk about things that people think about, but they don't really want to talk about it because everyone just keeps it hush hush. You know what I mean? And the reason that people want to keep these things that I talk about hush hush is because they're really difficult. They're extremely difficult. And so the viewers that I do get from everywhere in the world, including Saudi Arabia, including wherever, but probably not North Korea. But if they were to have the internet in North Korea open and free, I'm sure that there are people there. People with progressed spirituality and an openness and desire for the truth that would watch me if they could. And who knows, there may be some North Koreans that now live in South Korea that watch me. And I just think it's really cool. I think it's really cool to be able to get on here and shoot the shit, you know, just, you know, I'll check out the, I've ordered from you. Cool. Thank you, Twinkle Stars. I don't recall seeing your name as Twinkle Stars on an order, but I can understand why it would not be that. Hello, brother from Florida. Hello, Augustin Acosta. I once lived in Daytona Beach in the winter times when the weather was nice. In fact, I watched the space shuttle blow up out my window. I lived in the hostel on Atlantic Boulevard in Daytona Beach, 1985. It was a horrible thing. Dawn's Meditation. Cool, you lived out here. Yep, I did. I had a mobile auto detailing business in San Diego, and I guarantee you I could drive around San Diego still to this day. In fact, I was looking at it on Google Maps the other day, and I was like, yeah, I know that, because you can go down a street and see the street view. And I was like, hey, I lived right there. See that apartment? See that place? I lived there. So, yeah. I'm a wise man. Thank you. I'm the best. Thank you. If you guys keep complimenting me like that, I will never block you. But I'll tell you, I just, I don't want to put up with crap from people. There's so many people in this world, and I'll tell you one of the hardest things that I have a conflict with constantly within me is that I realize that creation is going to take a lot of people out of this world by various means, and I've told you this before. But it's hard for me. It's hard for me to deal with that, knowing that that's going to happen. And it's kind of like just, I don't know. As an example, there were a lot of buffalo on this North American continent 300 years ago. There were, I think they say, millions of head of buffalo, big, huge herds of buffalo in the United States. And then the white man came, and in the late 1800s, pretty much decimated the buffalo herds. And so it went from millions and millions of buffalo down to, I believe, in the hundreds or less. And now the populations come back a lot. I don't know exactly how many buffalo there are, but they've bred them with cattle too. So I don't think that a whole lot of them are purebred buffalo anymore, but there are some. But that's an example of something that happened in history to pretty much reduce the population of a species by a massive amount. And then now it's kind of come back again. And so now relate that to the human species that has 7 to 8 billion people on the earth now. And most of you, if not all of you, anyone with a mind that thinks, knows that there are God knows how many different potential disasters that can come and decimate the human population as well. Who knows? So many different things that we may not have even thought of yet. Like aliens coming down and eating our brains. So anyways, That's another thing where you really have to, in this world that we live in now, you really have to connect. You really have to connect with creation. And and speaking of Saudi Arabia, you know that the Muslims often, a lot of them, pray 5 times a day. Okay, so they live in the desert, so there's not a lot of abundance of, there are some resources like oil, for instance, but it's probably most of those desert regions in the Middle East are very dry, and there's little water, and there's a lot of challenges that we don't have in places like here in North Carolina. And so I think it's a lot more of a challenge to stay alive in those places. And especially with not as much technology like we have here. So they do a lot more of this connection to the divine than we do here. But I've been, especially in the winter times, getting a lot more connected to creation in the evening, generally. Oftentimes when I'm doing my self-massage and stretching at the same time, it's really good. There are certain combination things to do at the same time. You can multitask your meditation and connection to creation with your self-massage and stretching. Because the self-massage and stretching, after you get good at it, it's not like a mind thing where you're really needing to focus too much. It's just a brainless thing that you do physically. And so you're able to connect with creation and get very quiet. And maybe if you're stretching your legs, you can put your hands together in prayer position, because this is a joining of the left with the right. And everything that's a joining of opposites in this world creates the middle ground, which is the highest connection to creation. So you might even put the bottom of your feet together. The joining of the left mind with the right, because if you look at a brain, you'll see that it has two distinct spheres of the left side and the right side. You've got a left ball and a right ball. I know I'll get some comments from that. Come on, you guys. Come on. You got to have a sense of humor. 3 people just unsubscribed. I know what you mean exactly. Twinkle Stars, did you say that before or after I said the ball comedy? So anyway, there's all these opposites, and whenever, just like when you have sex with somebody, it's the joining of one person to another. And hopefully it's a really well balanced joining. And the more well balanced it is, it's probably a closer connection to creation. So, but don't be afraid to be alone during the holidays. Don't be stressing about it unless you really want to. Sometimes people will intentionally do things like have negative thinking, be depressed, be sad, or a lot of eat bad food, a lot of different things. And the key to healing largely is to move towards the center without sacrificing the other things that you've gained on. You know what I'm talking about here, right? So let's say that you've really got a solid whole foods diet like I've gotten now. And I haven't cheated or gone back to any junk food, wheat or dairy, anything like bad. I'll eat a little chocolate here and there and some peanut butter. But I don't cheat with crappy food, anything like I did 20 or 25 years ago, because I've just gotten a solid base in that regard. And if you just keep practicing and practicing and practicing, you'll get to that point. But say something really crappy happens to me and it creates a lot of stress in my life. If I'm really solid with my diet, I still won't cheat, no matter what. Like, unless I were starving, right? I somehow found myself on a desert island like Tom Hanks, right? And I'm walking down the beach, and all of a sudden, a bag of Wonder Bread floats up on the shore. A bag of Wonder Bread and some Miracle Whip is sitting there on the beach, and I'm like, damn, should I eat that? And some cheese. And so, and then I come upon a tree that grows cheese. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, maybe this is natural. It's a tree that grows mozzarella cheese. And so I pick some cheese off of there and I eat it. Oh my God. But you know what I'm talking about. Like, so something seriously stressful happens to you. Something just horrible happens to you. And somebody that's was a heroin addict 20 years ago, but they've been going to their meetings, their Drugaholics Anonymous meetings, and they've gotten really, really strong. And so their wife just died, but they still aren't going to go back to the heroin. They know there's no sense in it because they've gone back to it before. And all they experienced was pain, trouble, and they damn near killed themselves. So that's kind of the thing. When we're fresh off the wagon from something that we were working on to get rid of, it's pretty easy to go back to that thing if we've not really built a resistance. And I know of a whole lot. I could tell you so many things that now that I'm kind of sort of getting settled in with a bunch of really heavy changes that I've made in the last 5-10 years, I can tell you that there are a whole lot of medium and small things that I've dabbled in before that I'll be working on again. A whole lot of themes. And my friend Christina and I went for a walk today, and we were talking about that, and she said she was talking about something she's working on, and I consider it to be a fairly small holistic modality, and that is that she just cannot stand unnatural light, like these lights. Like the light that I'm using right now to light my face up to see you, so that you can see me. She cannot stand that. And she's talking about some guy on YouTube, probably, that talks about all the scientific research involved with how unnatural light causes problems with our eyes and various physicalities. And I think that that's probably true. But do I think that that's a big piece of the puzzle? No, not for me anyway. Now, maybe for her. Maybe for her. But for me, it's important for me to have light at night so that I can do my pillow, make my pillows and various products. Because sometimes, I want to tell you something really important. I want to tell you something really important in regards to healing. You have to go with the flow in the moment. And it doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. And I've probably told you this before, but I want to tell you again because it's something definitely to remember. And it's hardest at night. If you're tired, your body is tired, but for some reason you can't sleep. You really have to get up and give yourself whatever you need to be able to get feeling better so that you can get back to sleep. And believe me, I have no idea how people can work a graveyard shift. That just boggles my mind. And my mom did it for years as a nurse, working from like 10 at night till 6 in the morning or 8 at night, whatever. It just boggles my mind because for me, that would F up my circadian rhythms to the max. I have to sleep at night, but I'm usually a kind of a late owl. But eventually I want to get to the point of where there's another thing. I want to get to the point of where I'm going to bed at like 8 or 9 consistently and getting up at like 5 or 6 in the morning and utilizing the light of day to its maximum potential. So right now it's 10:30 Eastern. And I should be in bed by now. But this is what I mean by just going with the flow. Should be according to who? I should be in bed according to who? No. I'm talking to you guys and I'm enjoying that out of it. Where do you get massages in Asheville? What's your favorite type of body work? Well, I'll tell you, Amala Wine. If you guys would buy more of my products, and I'm not saying that I'm not appreciative, but if you guys would buy more of my products, then I might be able to afford to go get a massage. But I haven't paid for a massage from anybody for a long time. A long time. But if you were in the Asheville area, you could connect with me and come up here and get a massage. Yes, I have a very nice massage room and you could come get a massage from me. Which brings up, I wanted to mention, today I sent out an email to anybody that's bought any products from me that's on my email list, that I now have just about everything on sale. It's Black Friday. And since everyone wants to buy something on Black Friday, why not buy something really of a high quality and totally organic and natural and handmade that's going to last for a long time? My rollers I put on sale today for $10 to $25 off. I put my millet hull pillows on sale for $50. I don't ever go below 50 because I just can't make anything if I do that. I've got to at least make something on them. But my millet hull pillows, I really worked on my website today and I put them on sale from 60 to 50. And let's see. I put the Shindig massage tool on sale for 45 from 50. It's not a big discount, but it is a discount. And I put a lot of things, some things were already, I put my knee ankle bolsters on sale from 100 down to 85. So definitely check out my website. And if you don't want anything on my site, you could become a supporter of my channel just by using the link that's in the description box of this video and recent videos, the Amazon affiliate link. And basically all you do is click on it. It takes you to the Amazon homepage. And it's not just the Amazon homepage though. If you look in the URL, you'll see Brett's Natural in there. And that shows you that it's my affiliate link and connected to my affiliate account. So if you click on that affiliate link that's in the description box, once again, and then you go buy anything on Amazon, I'll make anywhere from 2 to 10%, depending on what it is that you buy. And that's been making me a few bucks a day lately. And that's cool because that helps pay bills. Now, you guys know that I'm living a lifestyle that's not anything like what most people are living. In some regards, yes, but in other regards, definitely not. And so I'm trying to live kind of a minimalist life and cut anything out of my life that I know I don't really need. And you know what I'm talking about. Because there's a whole lot of things, God knows how many things, and most of them say, made in China. There are so many things out there that you can purchase that you end up looking at them and thinking to yourself, why the hell did I buy that? Now, most of the products, in fact, all of the products that I sell on my website, I think that they're valuable. There may be some people out there that don't, and that's cool. But I really want to sell my products to people that are genuinely interested in using them. And the reason for that is because I put a lot of work into them. And now just imagine to yourself, think to yourself, like, if you were to somebody that made handmade products that were meant to be used, not just like art that you hang on the wall, you know, or like a pot that you just used for decor, but a product that's actually made specifically for using to get rid of pain or to help you to feel better. I find tremendous inner security and inner joy and inner value with my life, thinking that I'm making, if I'm spending hours a day making something for somebody. Let me show you something that I finished today that's going to Mexico City. I'm just getting over my cold. I still have a couple of little goobers in there. But this is another roller that's heading out soon, going to Mexico City. It's the smallest size that I make for a person that's less than 120 pounds, 1.5 inches on each side. It's made out of cherry wood. And this particular roller, every single little thing on it is perfect. And I love it when a product comes out because sometimes you'll have, and you just can't help it because you're working with natural materials and you're only human, and maybe it'll only come out 99% perfect. Maybe there's some kind of a little blemish, or maybe the joints on the rubber on these don't always come out butted out absolutely perfect, because we're talking about thousandths of an inch here. But this roller is so damn close to perfect, it's not even funny, this one. And it's just because I've made so many of them now that the orthotics I make now, man, I am so effing proud of the orthotics that I've developed for the last 15 years. They just kept getting incrementally better and better and better, to the point of where now every single pair that goes out of here is damn near just flawless. And it's so cool. I don't see a whole lot of improvements on those or these. And I've been messing around with mine, getting the width of the rollers in different widths, you know, and seeing what it feels like spread farther apart and really tight, or just like 1/4 of an inch apart, etc. And it really is a different feel. And I really like to adjust the width of my roller for working on my back in different places because it's cool. But yeah, that's one I did today. I largely worked on my website today, and I added another page because I'll show it to you. I needed to have the options for my millet hull pillows on a separate page. And now I have a new option that's coming soon, and it's the hieroglyphics, the color-grown cotton hieroglyphics. And I'm going to see if I can find a bag that's made out of that material, because I'm going to start making my millet hull pillows as an option with this material. And it's going to cost an extra $20 for the pillow. But it's the coolest freaking material, and I've known about it. I've had some of it before. I've bought some of it before, but it's so expensive that it's not even funny. It's like 25 bucks a yard. There it is. Okay. Okay, so this is a food bag. This is a food bag made out of that material, the hieroglyphics material. Okay, there we go. So this is a food bag made out of the hieroglyphics material. And this fabric is color-grown cotton, organic. And the weave of it is thick and tight and so soft and durable. It is absolutely the coolest. Like, look at the see how that's brown? The light color is the natural color of undyed cotton. But that right there is color grown brown. And so they've hybrid, which is not the same as GMO. They've hybrid the cotton to be able to grow in blue, brown, green. And it's a woman in Arizona, I believe. She's probably one of the few that still grow it, because it's expensive. But the feel of it, the heaviness of it, it's so durable and it's so soft. This is a food bag, and right now I made this a long time ago. That's probably an 8-year-old bag or more. I've got rice in it. I've got brown rice in it now. You can't see it. But I just ordered 5 yards of this, okay? Because they had a Black Friday sale today, so I got a good deal. But anybody that wants to have this, buy the pillow with this option, I've now got it on this separate page, and I'll show that to you real quick. So if you have a laptop, my website looks like this. And if you hover over the Millet Hull Pillows option, you'll see there are 3 options. Millet Pillows, which is the regular page, the Millet Pillows options, and then the bolsters page. And if you click on the Millet Pillows option, you want to add one of the 2 options, which is the zippered case or the hieroglyphics, then you can, and it's on a separate page. And it's so much better than having it, trying to make it work on the other page. The site has to be functional for people to use it. But a site that's not functional, we all know it sucks. You know, a website where, and I've seen so many websites. I've complained to a lot of different people, a lot of different websites, that this aspect, the cart you're not able to find the cart, all kinds of things that really suck about some people's websites. And I want mine to be really functional. I've told you one of the things that you won't ever see, you'll never see on my website, a little pop-up thing asks you if it's okay to use, what do they call it, cookies? Let me come back to you now. They'll say, are you okay? Because the law now requires them to ask if it's okay for them to know your location, blah, 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 so that they can have their ads pop up on their website. And then you're going to read something on the website, and all of a sudden it stops and it jumps, and then some pop-up comes up, and it asks you if you would like to do this or that, and you're like, ah, stop it, you son of a. When you go to my website, that's what you get, baby. You scroll down, you won't get any pop-ups. You won't have any questions asked of you. Nothing. Nothing. Just a clean website that you get to scroll through, and you can read stuff and you can move around, and nothing annoying will happen while you're on my website. Nothing. So unfortunately, or fortunately, I have to tell you that when you're watching this video, that will not be the case. If you're watching it live, that'll be the case. But if you watch it later, you'll have some commercial come up, and I need that income, so please forgive me. But yeah, anyway, so I hope that everyone is having a very good holiday weekend. For me, it's pretty much the same gig every day. And sometimes I think to myself that that's how I kind of want things to get more and more and more, so that there's no highs, no extreme highs, and no extreme lows. And I remember when I was a kid and we would go to my grandma's house, one of the worst things, one of the worst lows, because we'd have such a great time at grandma's house. We get to eat as much ice cream as we wanted. We would get to eat all kinds of junk food and play games, Monopoly and Rook, and what are some of the other games that I can't even remember. We play a lot of Chinese checkers. You guys ever play that? What are some of the games that you guys played as kids when you'd go to like grandma's house or hang out with friends or whatever? We'd play all kinds of games. My grandma had this old game with these steel balls that rolled on two metal rods, and you would make the rods go in and out like this. It was an old game from like the 50s or 60s. And then you would make the ball try and roll up the rods and then land into one of the holes. And the higher that you got it up, the more you scored a point. And remember those games, those Japanese or Chinese games where the board tilted like this, and there was two knobs on the sides? You can still buy those. And then you'd make the ball go through a little labyrinth, and there were holes that the ball could fall into. Remember those? And then you'd try and get the ball from 1 to 100, and the farther that you got, the better the score, whatever. Remember those games? We'd play all kinds of games at grandma's house for Thanksgiving, and it was really a high. But then we'd get in the car and drive back to California, and I was so depressed. I was like, oh my God, why can't we live near grandma? Why can't we live close to grandma? Well, my dad wanted to live in Southern California, But I'm trying to get to where I'm not really experiencing the extreme highs and the extreme lows. And that was kind of the thing, like with my family, especially my brother. Because my brother, my God, I could not stand to go over to his house nowadays for more than a minute. There would be some kind of something, big giant screen TV blaring, or arguments, or kids screaming, or something. There's no way in hell that I would ever, in fact, I don't get along with him. So besides that, it's the same with most people. And it's happened. It's not them. They've stayed the same. It's me. I've changed. I'm completely different. And although I'm still a smartass and a comedy meister, and I'm definitely going to still do comedy videos and stuff like that, I don't like those modern idiocy things anymore. I can't stand any of that. And I think to myself, how can people have stayed? How can people possibly have stayed in the same mindset as they were when they were kids? How can they still listen, watch the same things? I know there's this guy that has this YouTube channel that's all about the television shows from the 60s, 70s, or 70s and 80s, etc., 60s, 70s, and 80s. And he calls it the good old shows, And I kind of agree with that to a degree. But at the same time, I can only watch stuff like that for so long. Now with music, it's kind of different because sometimes I can really enjoy listening to some, not a lot, but a small percentage of some of the old songs, a little bit I can listen to. Once in a while, I'll still listen to a full album from the Beatles. The classic stuff that can never die. But there's stuff like that I listened to when I was a kid, like, what? Could I listen to Fleetwood Mac Rumors, the whole album? Maybe occasionally. But Pink Floyd? Not really, because that was really such a drug thing that I used to do, when I was in my early 20s. I can tell you every song, every note, every whatever, from Wish You Were Here, Dark Side of the Moon. I know those albums like the back of my hand from being stoned, drunk, whatever, listening to them so many, many times. And they so totally relate to being in that state, that frame of being, in a different frame of mind, those albums, because that's how they are. They're like trippy, but they are something that maybe I could listen to a little bit because they are such genius musical creations. It's hard to explain my pros and cons, my likes and dislikes in regards to music that I used to like, because I grew up with the most iconic music that's probably not going to be surpassed for who knows how long. And a lot of young artists today still do covers of the iconic music that I grew up with. And I kind of prefer to watch that, something different and new of the same things that were created back then, if you know what I mean. Like Josh, what's Josh's last name? There's a kid named Josh, and then there's Rena Del Cid. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? They hang out and they tour a lot nowadays. They're in their late 20s, and they're really good musicians, which is not something you see nowadays very often. You don't see young people that are like incredible musicians. Like the chances of seeing having a musician nowadays that's the quality of Prince, that has his abilities on so many different instruments and being that good, the chances of that happening in today's world, even with the number of people that we have, it's not likely, because people spend so much more time on devices. So much more time on devices. Whereas back in the 60s and 70s, there weren't computers, there weren't all these devices, there weren't all these programs to learn. People just spent hours and hours and hours, all their time, specifically playing and getting good at playing instruments. And so they just got to be so good. And there was something about that era of, it was really extreme. It was really extreme. That whole Vietnam thing that happened, And then right after that, Nixon was impeached. And then after that, they wanted just a really nice president. And so they voted in President Carter, just a really nice Democrat, you know. And then they decided that it was just up and down. It was a roller coaster of crazy shit happening with all the drug scene. Because look at the 50s. Those of you that, it doesn't matter how old you are, look at videos, go on YouTube and look at videos of the 50s where everything was just wonderful. Like Leave It to Beaver. It was like Leave It to Beaver if you've ever watched that program on television. You can watch all those on YouTube. Everything was just wonderful. Everything was perfectly clean, and you got Barbara Billingsley and Hugh Beaumont and Leave It to Beaver. And so after World War II, World War II was just so horrible, and World War I was just so horrible that after so many people were killed and so much shit hit the fan and so much hell happened, the 50s were just very, very nice and kind. And it's like after the fire was over. And then the 60s, it wasn't totally peaceful though, because the wars of the South, of the Asian countries, and they just kind of meandered into Korea, which meandered into Vietnam, and then that kind of died out, and then we started to have some more problems later with like Iran. But after the 50s and all of that, for the most part, other than the Korean War that happened, which was kind of just like, I don't think a lot of people were paying that much attention to it. But when Vietnam came around in the 60s, especially towards the later that got in that conflict and us trying to prevent South Vietnam from becoming communist, when all that happened and 58,000 Americans died, that really started to cause a lot of people, and your brother or your uncle or your nephew, whoever it may have been, was directly involved in that, and they got injured or killed. A whole lot of people were up in arms with that, and a lot of problems. And so I think that largely created that really, really, really influenced a lot of the incredible music that came out at that time. And it was one of the things, no matter when you're living in this world. And I better not go off on that tangent too quickly, but no matter when you're living in this world, it doesn't matter. You're always going to see pros and cons. You're always going to see the goods and the bads. And for instance, right now, Donald Trump, there are pros and there are cons. And for some of you, you're not able to see the pros. You're not able to see the benefits, the good things that are coming out of this presidency. And it may not be necessarily something that's good, because a bad creates a good. And something that you're looking at that's so obvious, there are so many things that have happened with him that are so obviously corrupt, so obviously unethical, and so obviously just untrue, that it makes us all understand how so many people can be in denial, just like a drug addict. And it's hard to imagine, but it's what I think the hardest part. I'll tell you the hardest part of this particular thing. The hardest part of this particular thing is knowing that our country that we thought was so strong is not very strong at all in a lot of ways. There are a whole lot of people that are hurting in a lot of ways that will stick with Donald Trump no matter what, as long as he keeps implementing protectionist themes. And there are a whole lot more things, I guarantee you, that can be withdrawn. Not just the Paris Climate Agreement, a whole lot of things that we can go back on. But you can't go back very far before you start to experience the detrimental effects of those things, whether it be the environment or the economy or whatever, trade, all kinds of things. And so what I've tried to do with my life after seeing all of the highs and lows, like all of the expansion and contraction. I'll give you another dumb little example. Bell bottoms. Remember bell bottoms? And then remember how the skinny leg jeans came around? Back in the 70s, people wore these jeans that had these huge bottoms on them. And they'd walk and it'd make flopping noises. Bell bottoms. And so those were so cool. I'll tell you what, for some reason, those were just cool. But after a while, we got tired of bell bottoms and we went back to medium regular jeans. And then they got really skinny. And when they got really skinny, I said to myself, no, that's really, really stupid. How the hell can you get your feet through those jeans? How do you get them off? You can't even get them off. They're so tight. And so what I decided was that I was just going to stick with normal jeans. And I also learned that I didn't really need 501 jeans, Levi's 501 jeans. I just needed some jeans that were relatively heavy. I kind of like heavier jeans so they don't get holes in them too much. I also decided that I didn't want jeans that were split, because here's one thing though. If I do decide I want more airflow in my jeans, I might make some custom jeans with zippers that zip like 3 feet wide or 3 feet long. I unzip the zipper, 3 feet. If you guys like this, if you guys are enjoying this conversation, this whatever we're talking about, like what is good about the current president? Well, he's setting a bad example, James. He's setting a bad example. And when you have something to bounce a ball off of, it gives you reflection. It gives you an understanding. It also opens your mind up to the opposite side, the Republican thinking, and the potential logic of what they're thinking about, and there is potential logic about that. I don't totally agree with all of his policies. But in any case, you see that whether it be politics or jeans or whatever it may be, I've kind of come to the conclusion that I'd like to find a nice medium in between. And that's generally is the best policy. And people say that moderation is the best policy. And so any of you that are hardcore Republicans that watch me, or hardcore Democrats, you should probably take a look at yourself. Because if you're somebody that's really hardcore Republican and you don't have any compassion for people, you know that might not be akin, that might not be paralleling to your belief in Jesus. For you right-wingers, that might not particularly be very paralleling, very conducive to your spirituality in its purest form. Guns, and being really loud and stuff like that. You might want to ask yourself, like, well, would Jesus do it? if you're a good Christian? Would Jesus prevent migrants that are out in the middle of the desert starving and need water? Would it be against Jesus? Would it be for Jesus to prevent them from getting a gallon of water? There's all kinds of things. And then if you're a far left liberal, you might want to ask yourself, is it really, would you be okay with allowing as many immigrants to come over the border as you as want to? Should you just allow the full millions and millions of them from Guatemala or El Salvador or wherever to just come up here as much as they want and camp out in your yard? There are two sides of the story here. And President Obama sent back a lot of immigrants. Our very liberal President Obama sent back, I think, more than Bush or Reagan. He sent back a lot of immigrants to their countries, deported them. So that's what I try and do. I try and find the modern. Oh, and by the way, I have Mars in Libra. And Libra is the scales. Imagine the scales balancing back and forth. Libra is the scales, and I have Mars, my masculine side, the planet of war, the planet of decision making, the aggression planet, the male dominated planet. I have that in Libra, the scales. So that's kind of why I like to look at things. And I also have the moon in Virgo in my chart. And Virgo is the analytic, constantly analyzing and picking through things to see what's the best thing. It's also really clean. Any of you that have Virgo, a lot of Virgo energy in your birth chart, you're probably a very clean person. Like if you look at my nuts and bolts in there back here, my nut and bolt bins. I can't bring it over because it's too big, but I have everything categorized perfectly. All my tools are in order. My computer is all in order. My website is all in order. And that's just how Virgo acts. But Libra, the scales, my Mars is in that, and I'll look at the left, and I'll look at the right, and I'll look at the pros, and I'll look at the cons. And it's beneficial, but one of the downsides of that oftentimes is that Libra can't make up its mind, because it just gets stuck in a circle looking at the pros and cons, the benefits and detriments of all the different things, and it can't make up its mind. So I have to kind of watch that with myself, and sometimes if I'm just stuck, I'll just just pick something. Just pick something and go with it, But for those of you, I'm going to talk about something real quick here. Maybe not real quick, but there's 31 people watching right now, and I'm probably going to make a video specifically on meat. Meat, that's right. Chicken, beef, fish, whatever, deer. And since there's 33 people watching right now, I think that I would like to talk a little bit about that and what my experience has been with that recently. Now, you know that about 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, I started investigating the possibility of growing my own chickens. And that's because I knew I had a very strong suspicion, that the reason for Chakra's ear infection, the constant clogging of her ear, her left ear, and the infection in it, was due to the Coleman organic chicken that I was feeding her. Because she was eating that, at least one or more of those every week. And I knew it wasn't the vegetables that were causing that. I knew it wasn't the salmon that I was also feeding her that was causing that. I didn't think that it was any of the grain that was causing that. And so just by process of elimination, for the most part, I came to the conclusion that it must be that chicken. And that pushed me, really pushed me, to start growing my own chicken and to look for alternatives. And I started to think to myself, you know, PJ, why am I not okay? I'm fine. Hey, family. No bottoms were in back thing in Utah, but not in California. Straight leg jeans for those guys. Okay, so in any case, I decided that what I was going to do, since I felt like I was physically and mentally up for it, because you have to be ready for any kind of a major change that you make in your life. And you have to be, you know, the weather had to be right. It was for building, for putting up a fence and creating the net and all of that. So that's what I did this fall. But I also completely got rid of chicken. And from watching the chickens and examining other videos on YouTube about how other people are raising their chickens, and from experiencing the potential problems involved with raising chickens, mostly the predators, I came to the conclusion that it was correct for chickens to be out foraging completely range-free. I watched my chickens catch frogs, live big frogs hanging out of their beaks and running from the other chickens that were trying to get them away from them. I watched my chickens all day, and still, even now that it's really cold, they're out digging, scratching, trying to get the bugs, and there's still bugs out there even though it's cold. And they go out and they do that for hours and hours and hours a day. And so they're getting all of this exercise, and they're eating all of this protein from bugs. And some people will tell you to eat bugs and that it's good for you to eat cockroaches, all kinds of bugs. But what I've learned from raising chickens is that my chickens are not going to be slaughtered soon, because I want those chickens to at least get to the point of where they've experienced crowing. And it takes like 5 or 6 months for a rooster to get to the point of where they're crowing. My chickens are going to live full lives before I slaughter them. And the hens are going to live wonderful lives, and they're going to be foraging all the time and laying the best eggs ever. And it's still not always easy. The other day I had a couple of stray dogs chasing the chickens. I chased them in my bare feet down the driveway and hurt one of my heels. It's okay. It's okay. It got a little bit injured, but a couple of neighbors' dogs got loose, and they were chasing the chickens a little bit. And I screamed at them and chased them down the driveway. I was lucky that I happened to be out working on my porch. I was out working on the porch making some wood products. But I have learned, and I'm not positive because I haven't killed any of my chickens yet, but I'm 99% sure that after I do, that those chickens will not look anything like anything that any of you have purchased at any store. Now, there may be some villages in South America where you can buy from people that are raising the chickens like I am, some good quality chickens. But the bottom line is that since Chakra and I have only been eating, and get this and listen to it real strongly, wild meat. And when I say wild, I mean, even though these chickens are domestic, chickens are a domestic animal, so are pigs, so are not, horses can be wild. But you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about domestic animals. There are a whole lot of domestic animals that are 99% of the time not raised correctly. And that includes chickens, more like 99.99% of the time, pigs, pork, probably 98% of the time. Those animals are not raised to where they are like nutritious and lean. And I believe from watching Chakra's ear heal, it's amazing. It's amazing. And me, I'm drying up because all I'm consuming is very occasionally some pure range-free beef, but most of the time, salmon, wild, canned, or fresh salmon, oysters that are properly raised, shrimp I'm eating, a little bit of beef organ meats, but totally range-free. That's the thing with beef. Okay, even though beef is for the most part too heavy for me, I can buy pure range-free beef. And the reason for that is because beef are not a difficult animal for the most part. Now that wolves are gone and there's no predators for the beef, the cattle can be raised range-free, pure, without sending them to a feedlot, without feeding them any grain at all. They can just eat grass and weeds all day long and be totally range-free, just like a wild deer. And so beef can be raised, and you can find it natural. But if you're like me, that's not a red meat person, you got to really limit that and mostly eat fish. But for the most part, if you want to clean out your body, you got to get rid of chicken and pork and turkey. Turkey, none of those animals are raised well, even the organic. And the problem with it also is that it's so hybrid. Those Cornish cross, I talked about this in a previous video, okay? That's a big part of the problem. Those overly hybrid animals, they are so fat and they grow so freaking fast. They're so genetically screwed up that the turkeys can't have sex anymore. They have to be artificially inseminated to reproduce. And they have leg problems and heart problems and all kinds. And I hate to tell you this now that you've eaten turkey for Thanksgiving. But if you want to clean out your bod, you really got to get off of those animals, because basically the problem is, here's the problem. That it's so cheap. People are so used to buying chicken and turkey and pork for such cheap prices, $2-3 a pound, that there's no demand for quality animals because people don't understand the difference. I'm telling you that when I'm going to show you, I'll make the video after one of the boys is ready, after I've raised them for like 5 months. I've got a couple more months here to raise those roosters before I kill one of them. But after I do, I'll show you how completely different it looks than all of those birds at the store. All of those fatty, big-breasted chickens, it's going to be completely different. And nutritionally, it won't even come close. Those at the store won't even come close. And so imagine when you're eating all of these different foods, and chicken is a main food for people. Chicken is a major food for people. And they're buying it for dirt cheap, but the quality of it, there's no nutrients in it. There's no nutrients in it because they're not getting any bugs. The Coleman Organic, they get to go run around a little bit, but there's so many birds are grown in 100 at a time in such a small pasture that there's hardly any grass left for the most part, I'll bet you. And I'll bet they don't get very many bugs. They're overly fed grain, and they're hybrid. And so those birds are not even close to what I'm raising here. And so I would minimize, if I were you, if I were somebody that didn't have the ability yet to raise their own birds, I would, if you lived in the city and you have a house that you're renting, you could have a couple of hens and have your own eggs. And you could feed them weeds, you could feed them scraps. If you got grass in your yard, you can have that. They can eat that. The more bugs and grass and greens that those birds can eat, the better your eggs will be. And a lot of people, if you have a house, if you have an apartment, obviously that's not going to fly. But if you have a house and you have a backyard, you can have your own chickens. And you might have to put up a net to keep hawks, because hawks are everywhere. Hawks can get your chickens in the city too. And there are predators in the city, like small animals like minks and stuff, foxes maybe, that can also get into your backyard. And so you have to figure it out. It's all part of the game. It's all part of the game. And you're their caretaker. It's a really, really neat thing, y'all. I have to tell you, raising chickens is a freaking cool thing. And it really opens your eyes. It's amazing. It's amazing to see and to protect your animals, but to also give them their freedom. And that's what most people, you go ahead and look at people that are raising chickens on YouTube videos, and you will see that most of them are not even close to allowing my chickens are clear the hell down on the property now, all out on their own. And I kind of worry about them because they're getting farther and farther away from their coop and the cabin during the day. But they're just cuter than shit when they come running, because if I go out on the deck, they'll see me, and from clear far away, they'll see me and or hear me, and they'll just come running like hell. It's just cool to see your chickens, all 24 of them, come just running like mad hell because they think that you might be gonna feed them. And so you're providing them. It's a big trade. It's just like a relationship. Like I have a relationship with you. Okay. So you want to see me keep going with these videos, you got to keep my ass alive. You got to tell people about me. You got to use my Amazon affiliate link. You got to buy my products. If you don't keep me going, just like if I don't feed the chickens, if I don't protect them from the hawks by turning on the crow sounds every day, if I don't put up the scarecrows, pretty soon my chickens will get eaten by somebody else, and then I'll be shit out of luck. You know what I mean? So you gotta support and appreciate the things and take care of the things that matter to you. And a lot of you realize that and have purchased my products. And I want to thank you so much. You are awesome. You are awesome. And to a degree, I'd even like to thank people that haven't supported me, that just watch my videos and appreciate me through the ethers, with energy through the ethers. Cool. That kind of helps too. It does. I totally believe in that. Like I was telling you before, there are unseen energies that many of us understand to be there, but we just can't explain them yet. Mark my words, humans will get to a point of where they're able to scientifically explain unseen phenomena like ghosts. And it'll turn out, I'll bet you, it'll turn out to be people that you're related to, people that died from your past that you're related to, that wanted to stick around and become your spiritual like guardian, your guardian angel. It could be people that have, it will definitely be people, if you have spiritual guides in your life, they are people that have things in common with you. Okay, they have something in common with you, and they've been assigned to you. Think about the way, here's how I look at spirituality also, another way I look at spirituality. Think about the way things work in this world. Okay, so you're somebody that has deep feelings about some particular subject because you experienced something bad and or good in your life, and so you decided to devote your life to this particular subject. That subject, lids, jar lids. So you really love jar lids so much that you want to teach everybody about the benefits of using these jar lids, and because they've helped you so much. But maybe there was somebody else that lived in the 1600s that also loved jar lids, something like that. And so they were assigned to you somehow, and they watch over you, and they help you, and they guide you. And you see where I'm going with this. You just never know why or who or where you can be connected to some kind of a spiritual energy out there. And the internet is an absolutely perfect example of how humanity and animals and God knows how many things are coming together on Facebook, on YouTube, and all these other platforms. It's amazing. It's amazing. Think about how young people today, I did not have the ability. I had some cool things like the music when I was young that was just mind-blowing. But nowadays, there are people that are 16 years old, 8 years old, whatever, that can go back and experience anything from the past. They can visually see stuff that happened. The Jews in the Holocaust, they can see that and hear it and feel it and experience it with their own eyes, ears, and whatever. Who knows? Maybe they'll be able to smell things through the computer. There'll be some kind of a little thing that blasts out smells from the computer. You'll be watching some porn. And all of a sudden, the computer blasts out some dust, and you're like, whoa, baby. But you see where I'm going with this. I can't wait to see the comments from that. But in any case, you're able to go on Google Maps and look at places that are clear on the opposite side of the world and experience and feel those places. And it's amazing. It's seriously amazing. And think about how people have just traveled, how many people have just traveled so many millions and millions of miles and burned gazillions of gallons of gas and jet fuel to go back and be with their families. Now, everybody knows that that's not going to last, right? Can you put a comment? Please put a comment. Put a comment down below there how you do understand, right? That that's not going to fly forever, right? Because we're not going to just be able to burn 100 or 200 gallons of gas to go for a weekend to be with our families for 3 days. And that's just not sustainable. You know that's not sustainable, right? So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to do what I did with a friend on Facebook the other day. You just get on there and they'll have to increase the bandwidth or whatever they call it so that everyone can be on the internet at the same time. But that's a hell of a lot cheaper than burning 40 gazillion gallons of gas and jet fuel. And so we all know that that's coming eventually, right? Tell me that everyone knows that that's not going to fly forever. So people will have to get together virtually on the computer. And it's not likely that everyone will be able to do that at the same time. Like, for instance, right now, in this neighborhood, I'm using up a whole lot of the bandwidth for country cable because I'm shooting a live video. I'm taking up a whole lot of data. And if everyone in this neighborhood were doing it, you guys wouldn't be able to watch me right now. Hopefully, gladly, we're not, and everyone's not doing it. But that's what people will have to do in the future, and they'll probably have to do it at scheduled times because not everyone can do it at the same time. But things have to change. Things have to change. And you have to get used to it. Like I was talking about before in a video, you have to get used to living a life that's a lot closer to the way the Amish live. Not exactly like the Amish, thank God, but a lot simpler, and where you're utilizing the resources in a lot smarter way and a lot less of the resources, etc., etc., etc. There's going to have to be so much more respect gained. And really, the only way that people get, a lot of people, for the most part, and it depends on a lot of who you are and how strong you are, etc., and how much respect you have for whatever reason. But some people just don't have any respect for all of those things, and they're going to have to learn the hard way, or they'll just have to die. I have a friend on Facebook the other day. Her husband died of a massive heart attack. And I looked at her pictures, and her husband looked like he weighed about 450 pounds. And she told me that he couldn't walk, and he'd been in a wheelchair for many, many years. And she said that what he needed was medical help, but they couldn't afford it. And you know me, I'm just flat out honest. And I said, no, really, what he needed to do was change his diet. And so a lot of people, they just won't change. Whatever it may be, they won't change. Even you that are watching me might not be using cloth bags at the grocery store, and you might not ever do it, even though I've pleaded with you. I haven't really pleaded with you because I know better, because you can't change people. All you can do is set an example and tell people what you're doing. And I believe that I'll have a lot easier time about my living because I've created this lifestyle if stuff hits the fan. When stuff hits the fan, I think that in a lot of regards, I'll make it through it a lot easier than most people. But all of my stuff, for the most part, is on sale. BrettsNaturalHealth.com. I've put all the links to this in the description box below. If you can use the Amazon affiliate link to buy your products that I put in the description box, I'd really appreciate it. And all you have to do is click on it and then save it as a bookmark or a favorite, whatever they call it on your particular browser, Chrome, Windows, or Microsoft, whatever it's called, Internet Explorer, Firefox, whatever. Just save it as a favorite. And so then you can just click on it whenever you want to buy something on Amazon, if you use Amazon. Some people don't like to use Amazon because they think that it's getting too big. They think it's abusive, etc., etc. And that is true. But at the same time, there are so many things that I've benefited from to be able to provide natural products for you all, for the most part, to be able to live naturally. There are a lot of great things on Amazon. And once in a while, I even find something at Walmart. So that's kind of the thing. I don't just put everything in one basket, and I don't just throw something out like Walmart or Amazon, just because I know that there are some potentially bad things, or definitely some bad things about them because they're giant menageries. And I'm not just going vegan because I know that there's, for instance, a small amount of mercury in the salmon that I eat. I got to get some more water. So anyways, yeah, try not to let the holidays get you down. If you're a single person, if you don't have any family, whatever, because one of the things that you have to really watch yourself with is don't compare yourself too much to society. And also, there's a definite, in regards to unseen energy, there's a definite something in the air in regards to there's a lot of human beings on this planet. And whenever something is going on, you can feel it in the air, even if you're not watching the news, you're not watching television at all, you're all by yourself in the house, and you're not even paying attention, you're not tuning into anything regarding them out there. There's still an energy in the air that's being projected by the minds of all of the people, the minds and the bodies, the hearts and the souls of all of the people that are out there. Okay, so not directly connected to that particular energy, but I've told you this before. After 9/11 happened, it seemed like people were the walking dead in Utah. When I was living in Roy, Utah in 2001, and 9/11 happened and those buildings were knocked to the ground, I'd go to the store for days or even weeks later, especially the first week, but the first couple of days, I looked around at people, and I swear to God that they were damn near freaking dead. Their energy was like they were the walking dead. And there was more than just the projection of what you could see and hear and feel from people when you would go out and be amongst them. The energy of the air was just heavy and dark and deep, and it was hard. I was saying to myself, now look, it's just a couple of buildings in New York. Yes, they were big buildings, and yes, 3,000 people just died. But 1,700 people die every day of heart disease and diabetes. And so, I mean, if you put things in perspective, it wasn't really that big a deal compared to the junk food that I've told you about that's killing thousands of people a day for in a lot more ways than just diabetes and heart disease. But the news affects people so big time, especially when it hits close to home. And that wasn't even that close to home. I was in Utah, but it was our country. And so you have to be aware in the holiday season. I have learned you have to be aware of how much of that holiday energy is going around. And in order to not be affected by it too much, you really have to connect with that for which is a lot bigger than just humanity here on this planet. So start thinking about the stars. You might even go outside on a clear night, on a clear winter night, even if it's really cold, really, really cold outside, but the skies are clear, okay? And you put on your glasses if you can't see very good like me. So you put on your glasses and you go out on the deck or you go out in your yard and you look up at the sky for 5 or 10 minutes. And this is what I really loved about living in New Mexico. The skies, the big, incredible skies, and the cloud formations. Oh my Lord. You know, it's no wonder that the place where they swear they saw aliens and where you can go and buy God knows how many alien things and go on alien tours and that is in New Mexico, Roswell. But you can go outside and experience the sky, and it may not be as incredible as New Mexico, but you can go anywhere in this world on a clear night and look up at the sky and look at the stars and think about the possibilities. Think about the possibilities of all of those planets out there. It's amazing. It's like there can be places that really are like the Garden of Eden, but particularly maybe they're advanced places that have computers. Maybe they're advanced places to the point of where people don't have any kind of a mechanical computer. Their brain has become so advanced, so fast that they can memorize things and think about things just like a computer and recount things and function just like a computer. And maybe they can communicate. Their telepathic abilities are so strong that they can communicate with people with no mouth at all. These are things that you probably saw if you're as old as I am in the Star Trek series, or maybe you're younger and you saw it in the other Star Trek series. They were geniuses. Gene Roddenberry. All those people were freaking geniuses. Some of the things that they thought of in that time, the space race, in that time in the 60s. Incredible. But we know if we can visualize things like that now, and you can go outside and you can look up at the skies and think about the possibilities and the different kinds of planets and the different kinds of beings and creatures that might be on those planets, then you can get into that state of being of where you're protected from all of the thoughts of people in this world. And that's where you have to get. You have to get into that state of Neptune. That's where Neptune is. The planet Neptune gives us an ability in astrology to disconnect from that for which we are exposed to every day. You know, all of these humanly things, it gives us an ability to connect to that which is out there. Yeah, do that. If you start feeling down from all the energy, stop connecting as much with people. And because like everyone wants to, on videos, everyone wants to get clicks. And the way that you get clicks largely is by putting something up like if you're a very pretty faced person and you've got a lot of money and you can just go to Costa Rica. Like I remember watching an episode of what's his name in New York. What the hell is his name? The guy with the big nose, and he makes some really cool videos, but for me, I don't watch them anymore. I can't remember his name. Anyways, so he's got a lot of money rolling in. He's got millions of subscribers. And what does he do? He says that he wants to go test out the new drone from EDI or whatever it's called. He's going to go test out this new drone, but he's got to find a really cool place. So it shows him going to the helicopter pad in New York, going to the top of this building, jumping on a helicopter. That takes him to the airport. Within 1 minute of watching this video, it goes through 5 different clips, and then it shows him on a beach in the Bahamas. Blam. And people are thinking to themselves, oh man, this guy has got it made. And to a degree, yeah, he does. But it's all in your mind. There are people out there that have perfect relationships with their families. And they go to their family's house and they have the perfect Thanksgiving dinner and they this and they that. And if you watch their videos, then you might be getting to feeling very jealous. And that can take you to a place that you don't want to be in. You know what I mean? And so don't focus too much during this time of the year about what you don't have and what other people do have. Get out of, if you're really feeling down in this world because of that, and you can, with the internet, see, that's another thing with the internet. It can be a downer. It can be fantastic. Too much of it, though, can be a downer. It can make you depressed because you see all these things and all these qualities that other people have that maybe you don't have. You have to get into the right frame of mind because it's okay. It's cool to see all the cool things that other people have. But you have to realize the cool things that you have. And some of those cool things they don't have. And those things may be very, very simple things. They may be characteristics about your personality that are very unique to you and only you. And I really love myself to the point of where I don't need people that much. I don't need people that much to be around me. I do to a degree sometimes. And, but I'm really blessed to have you guys. See, Regina walks her dogs every night. And not that many, in all honesty. This is another thing that I think is really, really important, to go walking, but especially if you have dogs. And if you were to ask 100 people out there, and this is one of the things that I do, I make light of something, because right now there are 26 people watching me, and it's most likely that I'll bet you at least half of you have dogs. And out of that half of you, how many do you think walk their dogs regularly and or every day? Probably a lot more than the average people out there. If you were to take 100 people out there, if you were to take 100 of my viewers, I'll bet a lot more of them walk their dogs or go walking by themselves, whatever, every day than 100 average people out there. And that's why I don't give a crap that, like some guy said the other day, he's got 130,000 subscribers, but his videos only get less than 1,000 views nowadays. That's because I've whittled them down, baby. I've whittled them down by being totally honest as I can be, or as honest as I think that you can stand, or as honest as I can be without getting killed, about the things that I think and feel. And a lot of people said, screw that, I'm not watching this guy anymore. and I cannot handle it for whatever reason. But you all are the ones that are left. You all are the ones that are still standing. You all are the ones that are strong enough and or desiring enough to listen to all of this stuff that I talk about. And who knows? Who knows? Think about all those stars out there. And think of the possibility that in 100 years, there might be a perfect planet with perfect weather that's just like the Garden of Eden, and all of us come together there because we are connecting. We're connecting here and now. And there's no such thing as a coincidence. And energy creates energy. And energy flows into new energy. It's constantly flowing in to new energy. And anything that you do now creates something that's going to happen tomorrow and beyond. And so I want to thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you are well. Please support my videos and buy things on Amazon using my affiliate link that's in the description box, and then I'll make a little cut out of it. I'd really appreciate that. Or become a Patreon and make a little donation every month. Or buy my products. That would be cool. Thanks so much, and I hope that you are well.